from revelation to reason, from word to wisdom. The story of Islamic thought is the story of how faith became knowledge. Across centuries and empires, Muslims sought one answer: how to live by the will of Allah. As Islam spread, new lands and new cultures brought new questions. How should justice be done? Trade be managed? Life be governed? Over the centuries, Islamic thought grew from oral teaching to structured schools, from personal reasoning to codified law. Each era left its mark, shaping how Muslims understood and lived their faith.
During the Rashidun Caliphate in 632 until 661 in Common Era, Islamic thought was not yet organized into schools or movement. Instead, the Prophet's companions guided religious understanding. Their main focus was preserving and explaining the Quran and Sunnah to build the Islamic State. The companions acted as both scholars and leaders with various duties. The righteous Caliph devised certain procedures in order to solve new problems that had occurred during this period. Among the steps followed by Abu Bakr and Umar, they would first search on the ruling in the Quran. If he found the indication in the Quran, he will rule accordingly. If he did not find the answer there, they will then search in the Sunnah, the saying and action of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and ask the other companions whether the Prophet had ruled on similar incidents. He would rule accordingly upon finding any indication of the Sunnah. If he still did not find the answer, he will then call a meeting of the major Sahaba and try to get consensus of opinion among them to solve the problem. This consensus is referred to as Ijma' al-Sahabi. Agreement could not be arrived at, they will then take the position of the majority. If the differences were so great that there was no majority opinion, the Caliph will make his own Ijtihad based on the different views that had been discussed among the companions. The first Caliph, which is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu from 632 until 634 in Common Era. As the first Caliph and a close companion, his most notable intellectual contribution was commissioning the compilation of the first official version of the Quran from various written and oral sources. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu from 634 until 644 in Common Era. The second Caliph, Umar, saw unprecedented intellectual and administrative reform. He established key governmental departments and the Islamic calendar. His legal rulings, which is Ijtihad, particularly in divorce law, set important precedents for Islamic jurisprudence. Second last is Uthman bin Affan from 644 until 656 in Common Era. Uthman is most known for standardizing the Quran to resolve issues arising from different recitation across the vast empire. He ordered a definitive version, which is Musaf Osmani, to be compiled and distributed, destroying other variant texts. And the last one is Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu from 656 until 661 in Common Era. The fourth Caliph, which is Ali, is revered for his deep knowledge of Islamic law and his profound contribution to theology and jurisprudence. Shia Muslims in particular regard him as the sole legitimate successor and the first Imam, attributing immense spiritual and intellectual authority to him.
The year is 661 Common Era. The era of the rightly guided caliphs has ended, and a new chapter begins, the rise of the Umayyad dynasty. From its capital in Damascus, the Islamic Empire expands across continents, stretching from Andalusia in the west to India in the east. Yet, behind this political power and military strength, a quiet transformation begins, the birth of Islamic thought. The companions and their students spread knowledge across the empire, giving rise to two major approaches to Islamic law. In Madinah, the Ahli al-Hadith, which is the people of tradition, hold firmly to the Quran and the Prophet's sayings, refusing to rely on personal opinion without proof. Meanwhile, in Kufa, the Ahli al-Ra'yu, the people of reason, use intellect and analogy when direct texts are absent. These two paths will eventually form the foundation of Islamic jurisprudence for centuries to come. But the Umayyad era was not only about law, it was also the beginning of deep theological debates. The Qadariyah argued that humans have free will and are responsible for their actions. Meanwhile, the Jabariyah insisted that everything is predestined by God. These were not mere arguments, they were the first sparks of what would later become Ilmu Kalam, which is Islamic theology, as Muslims sought to understand fate, justice, and divine power. Despite political challenges, the Umayyad left a lasting legacy. The Arabic language was unified as the empire's official tongue. The recitation of the Quran was refined, and centers of knowledge flourished from Madinah to Andalusia. This was the era when Islamic knowledge began to take shape from text to interpretation, from revelation to reason. The Umayyad period was more than a tale of kings and conquest. It was the dawn of Islamic intellectual history.
During the Abbasid Caliphate, Islamic scholarship became more structured and advanced. Four major Sunni schools of law began to form. Each school has its own method of interpreting the Quran and Sunnah. The first was the Hanafi school founded by Imam Abu Hanifah in Kufa. He lived in a diverse city where people often faced new situations that were not directly mentioned in the Quran or Hadith. To solve this issue, he used reasoning and analogy, allowing Islamic law to adapt while staying true to the main sources. His method was logical and flexible for the large expanding empire. Because of this, the Abbasid ruler later adopted it as their official legal system. The second was the Maliki school founded by Imam Malik in Madinah, the city of the Prophet Mohammad. Imam Malik believed that the practices of the people of Medina best represented the authentic Sunnah, since they were the closest to the Prophet time. He compiled his ruling and hadith in the famous book Al-Muwatta, which became one of the earliest and most respected works in Islamic law. His teaching focused on the maintaining community values and staying faithful to the Prophet's tradition. The third, the Shafi'i school, was founded by Imam al-Shafi'i in the heart of the Abbasid era. Imam al-Shafi'i studied under both Hanafi and Maliki scholars and noticed differences in their approaches. He then developed a more systematic method to combine both reasoning and tradition. He is best known for establishing the science of Usul-Al-Fiqh, which outlined how Islamic law should be derived from the Quran and Hadith. This framework brought clarity and consistency to Islamic jurisprudence. The last was the Hanbali school founded by Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in Baghdad. He focused strongly on the Quran and Hadith, avoiding personal reasoning unless absolutely necessary. Imam Ahmad became known for his strong faith and courage, especially during the Mina when he was imprisoned for refusing to accept false belief. His dedication earned him great respect, and his school became known for its strict reliance on authentic texts and moral discipline. Beyond the four main Sunni schools, the Abbasid period was also home to other important movements of thought. One example was the Zahiri school, founded by Dawud al-Zahiri, which rejected analogy and focused only on the literal meaning of the Quran and Sunnah. Meanwhile, early Shia scholars developed the Ja'fari school, based on the teaching of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. Their method combined reason with guidance of the Imam. The Abbasid era was also known for intense intellectual debates in Islamic theology known as Kalam. Major theological schools include Mu'tazilah that emphasize rationalism and human free will, while the Ash'ari and Maturidi school tried to find a balance between reason and revelation. Both the four Sunni school and other intellectual movements played vital role in shaping Islamic thought. Despite their differences, all shared the same goal, which is to understand and apply Allah's guidance sincerely. Together, they created a rich legacy of knowledge that continue to inspire Muslims around the world today.
The Ottoman Empire was founded by Osman I in 1990 in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. From a small principality, it grew into the longest-lasting Islamic empire, ruling for over 6 centuries. Its territories spanned 3 continents, which is Asia, Europe, and Africa, including Egypt, the Levant, the Balkans, and the Hijaz. After the fall of the Abbasid Caliphate, the Ottoman rulers were recognized as the final Islamic caliphs, symbolizing the unity and leadership of the Muslim world. During this period, the Hanafi school of thought was adopted as the official madhab of the empire. It was chosen for its flexibility and practicality in governing a large and diverse population. All Shariah courts, known as Mahkamah al-Shari'ah, applied Hanafi fiqh in their rulings. This uniformity created a strong and consistent legal framework that supported the empire's vast administration. The Ottoman era also marked a major milestone in the history of Islamic law, which is the codification of law known as Tadwin al-Qanun. In 1876, the Majallah al-Ahkam al-Adliyah was introduced as a civil code based on Hanafi jurisprudence. This was the first time Islamic fiqh was systematically compiled and transformed into a national legal system. Therefore, the position of Qadi al-Qudat or Chief Judge was established to oversee the judicial system. At the same time, ulama served as advisors to the Sultan, ensuring that governance aligned with Islamic principles. Across the empire, madrasah flourished, becoming centers of knowledge that shaped generations of scholars and jurists. However, by the late 19th century, Western influence began to rise. Secular legal system gradually replaced Shariah law in administration and education, signaling the start of a major transformation. The Ottoman era represented the peak of Islamic legal administration, where Shariah and state worked hand in hand. It was a time of unity, scholarship, and justice under Islamic governance. Yet, it also marked the beginning of the transition toward modern and secular legal systems that shape much of the Muslim world today. Through the Ottomans, the legacy of classical Islamic jurisprudence, especially the Hanafi madhab, was preserved, institutionalized, and immortalized in the history of Islamic civilization.
From the Rashidun Caliphate to the rise of the Ottomans, Islamic law has traveled a long path, shaped by scholars, rulers, and the needs of their time. Each era added depth to the understanding of Shariah, proving that knowledge in Islam grows with reflection and unity. Their legacy still guides us today, a reminder that justice, wisdom, and faith endure across generations.